Welcome back to the program. Now, it's no secret that lefties generally love to demonise, condemn and all-out slam us here at Sky News. Or maybe that's just you, Danica.
Oh, I think it's you, actually, James.
But their assertion is that this is some sort of right-wing echo chamber that gets thrown around a lot.
But sorry, lefties, we actually disagree, don't we, big time? Because dynamic debate and at times furious disagreement is what we are all about. And here on Danica and James, it's going to feature very prominently.
Yeah, that's right. Each week we'll pick out a big issue from the week and debate it. So we'll have left versus right, yes versus no. A fiery clash will be guaranteed.
And it's a segment we are calling Head to Head.
So, this week, let's talk about immigration, because Anthony Albanese's Big Australia just gets bigger and bigger. Migration to Australia hit a new record of 548,800 people in the year to September, Danica.
Now, for perspective, that's almost as many migrants arriving in Australia as the 600,000 fans who saw Taylor Swift across 7 sold-out concerts earlier this year. Trying to put it in perspective,
Why would
James.
you compare it to
I know, it wasn't my best, but anyway. And we all remember the pandemonium that was. But more to the point, we didn't vote for this many people.
Pauline Hanson has called for a plebiscite on immigration numbers. The pressure on housing, infrastructure, services, she argues, it's unsustainable. And even Brisbane's pro-immigration Lord Mayor, Adrian Schneider, has just come out warning that the surge in overseas arrivals is a runaway train.
And for many, Albo's immigration agenda is a lazy economic Ponzi scheme designed to prop up headline GDP. But opponents disagree, saying skilled migration is actually crucial for the country.
So our head-to-head debate tonight is, should Australia's immigration intake be reduced?
Joining us now is One Nation leader Pauline Hanson and Darrin Barnett, former press secretary to the Prime Minister Julia Gillard. Hi to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us on Head to Head this evening.
Thank you.
Pauline, we'll start with you. Another record month for migration. In February, more than 100,000 came into the country. That's an increase of 20% on the previous month. Why is Big Australia getting even bigger?
Because the federal government has to bring these people into the country to prop up the GDP. Otherwise, we'd go into recession. It's not working, because we've seen it in our cities. The infrastructure, we can't cope. The roads, the hospitals, the schools, the housing. Even the building industry said they can't cope with them. They can't build the number of houses. So every four migrants come into the country, only one house is actually built. So we're about 650,000 homes behind what we need in the country. And they talk about the fact for skilled migrants. Well, that's a joke. Between 22 and 23, 737,000 migrants came into the country. 51,605 were of the skilled category. Of that, only 1,800. That's 0.4% of 1% were actually in the building trade industry. So go figure, where are your skilled migrants? So most of them are basically managers of companies, I don't know, or they're bringing their partners. But we can't keep bringing in this number of people into the country because we don't have the infrastructure. It is unsustainable. And I'm saying, cut the immigration back to net zero, meaning if we got so many people leaving the country, bring them in all right. And I'm not against immigration. The country was built by migrants, but we can't keep bringing them in at this rate.
Pauline, I think a lot of people would sympathise with your arguments. So, Darrin, what's the argument for Big Australia and for big immigration? Because we've not voted for it. We're all feeling the pressure of infrastructure. So convince us we're on the right track.
I think it's multifaceted, as you know. And I completely agree with Pauline that only having that very small percentage of people in building and trades, that's not good enough. I had a meeting last week with Di Lee, who obviously is an independent member of Parliament in southwestern Sydney, and that meeting was about housing and the idea that there's not enough being spent on infrastructure, there are not enough houses being built, and there are not enough people to build those houses. So something needs to be done there. However, off the back of COVID, there were industries that were struggling. Whether we like it or not, education is a big money spinner for Australia. The universities make a lot of money, and therefore the economy makes a lot of money off students being in Australia. Those numbers dropped off close to zero during COVID. Now those numbers have recovered. But I think it's true that the Albanese government will be very worried about a rerun of the 2010 election. They don't want the tag of Big Australia to land with them. and they want to halve that rate from the 580-odd thousand to 250,000 by next financial year, and that will be a real test of the Albanese government's leadership.
Absolutely. Pauline, you're shaking your head there. What's your response to what Darrin just said?
I am. The damage has been done. The fact is, even if they pulled back the immigration now, all of a sudden, and we dropped right back, we still can't cope. It's going to take us years to actually build up the housing that's in the country. And the apprenticeship scheme, this is why I got the apprenticeship scheme up, and I had to force the coalition government to take up the scheme, and we got 100,000 apprentices out there because I knew we were lacking of skilled migrants or skilled people in our own country. You've got to actually get our own people working. You can't have 900,000 people on the welfare system. They should be actually working. There's another thing here as well that needs to be addressed, is it is the skilled trade that we need to do. By all means, look, you spoke about the universities. We've got over 730,000 students in the country as well. 70% of these take up new build as well. Universities don't pay tax in the country. They're also a charity. They're a not-for-profit organisation. We prop up as well. They get billions of dollars, over $10 billion, $20 billion a year that they get from these university foreign students, and we're paying for it.
Pauline,
what do we get out of the foreign students?
Pauline,
the whole thing, the economics of it is impacting on the average Australian out there.
Let me put that to Darrin, because is not the argument that immigration is propping up an economy where productivity has gone by the wayside? It's an unsustainable way to keep things going, is it not?
Well, it can be done, but it comes at a cost. And I guess we're all weighing up
That's what we're feeling.
What is that cost? No, and I completely agree with that. That it is one way that, I think Ponzi scheme's a little bit unfair, but certainly one way of generating growth in your employment in a whole bunch of areas within the economy is by net migration. But we've got to get the balance right. And I don't think we can cut migration to zero. I think we would slip behind and probably fall into recession. So it's a balancing act.
If we aren't already in one.
Sure.
We've got to go in a second. Let me ask you this.
Right.
Yes or no, do you trust the government to actually do as they've said and cut it dramatically? Do you think they're even capable of doing it?
We will wait and see.
A smart answer. Darrin, Barnett, Pauline Hanson, we have to leave it there. Good to speak with you both. Thanks for joining us.